Chapter 65, March 2004. Rick and Carol had talked about taking a trip to Charleston. They talked so much about it that I wanted to go, and so did Kevin and David. I begged my dad to let me go, and he reluctantly did. Bob told him that he shouldn't trust me, but I'm glad that my dad didn't listen, although Bob probably knew what would happen. Cole had wanted to go, but he had gotten in trouble, and his parents had grounded him. I was glad he wasn't going. Wendy wasn't going, as her parents wouldn't let her. Neither Wendy or Cole appreciated us going without them. Carol warned Kevin and I that we'd better not be a killjoy on the trip. In her opinion, we were babies. I suppose that it was up to this baby to keep them out of trouble, even though I didn't voice it. So about 7 a.m. on a beautiful Saturday morning, the 5 of us piled into Rick's parents' SUV and headed to Charleston. Carol was grumpy at first, but then after we'd stopped at McDonald's and ate, she was wired. She wanted to know all about my and Kevin's sex life. Neither of us wanted to talk about it, so she started talking about her and Rick. Rick didn't even seem to mind that she was blabbing about how big he was or how many times he could get her off. "Oh, tell me something," she remarked as she got back on the subject of my and Kevin's sex life. "It could be a lot better," I heard myself saying. "Let him get off, then try again," she said. "Then he won't be so quick." I'd have to try that. Kevin remarked that he didn't have a problem, and his girlfriend seemed happy. "What about your sex life?" she asked David. "You haven't said anything." "I don't have anything to talk about right now," he said. "I knew you were still a virgin," she exclaimed. I smirked at David while his face got red. "No, I'm not a virgin. I just don't have anyone to screw at the moment." Hell, I wasn't telling her that he was lying. It was none of her business. Although I wondered how he managed not to have sex. If he knew how to come, then why didn't he want sex? Carol started naming all the girls that she thought he could screw, and David scoffed at most of them. "Hell, do Christmas tree if you're any good. She ain't getting any satisfaction," she smiled as she looked for David's reaction. "Oh, seriously, why do you say shit like that?" I complained to her as I stared from the back seat. I was trying to forget how he and I had done some mutual masturbation the year before at the creek. I hadn't told anyone, and I supposed he hadn't either. Sometimes it was like an elephant in the room that we couldn't talk about it. It confused me that he'd completely put the incident out of his mind, and we'd never talked about it since. But that was David, and I didn't feel like pondering over why he'd never gotten laid yet. He definitely seemed to have a sexual hang-up of some sort. He took that chance to make bedroom eyes at me. "Maybe you should fuck me," he replied in a seductive voice. "I swear that I'll punch your lights out," I told him. They all teased me then, and I wondered how I'd gotten to be the butt of the jokes. At least David was just talk and no fondling, but I wondered how long that would last. He gave off so many conflicting signals. We made it to Charleston, and so we walked around Battery Street and the parks and houses there. We ate at one of the touristy restaurants, then hung out on the beach for a while. We looked for a hotel so we could get some downtime. Carol said that the 5 of us should share a hotel room so we'd have more money to spend doing other things. I looked for Kevin to make a decision on that. It would save us $70 apiece or so. Kevin looked at me to make that decision. "So what are you going to do to me that I'm not going to like if I share a room with y'all?" I asked them. "I'm not touching you. You're underage. I don't want you saying I raped you. Your dad would kick my ass," David assured me. He was taking pictures of the surroundings and of us, as usual. I scrunched my face at his comment. I'd beat his head in if he touched me without my permission. I still couldn't believe that he'd gotten me and Kevin so drunk that day at the creek, and then had tried to seduce me, and then nothing. I wished that I could have talked my dad about it. "And I'm going to be too busy making love to my man to bother with you," Carol informed me. I got a little out of sorts with that revelation. "You're going to screw your boyfriend with the rest of us in the room? Is that what you just said?" I asked her. "Hey, y'all can watch, no big deal," she replied. "You might just learn something." Oh my God, I said softly in disbelief. They were laughing at me now and calling me a prude. Okay, whatever, I replied. If everyone else was going to watch them, I would too. Rick booked the hotel room. It had 2 king-size beds. I figured I'd be sleeping on the floor. Daddy hadn't been happy at all that we were staying the night, so I had to call him and tell him I was all right. And I used the payphone in the lobby. I hated that I had to lie to him so much. Rick and Carol got into the shower together, leaving David, Kevin, and I alone. I asked Kevin if he'd go downstairs with me to look at the pool. Aren't you going to invite me? David asked. No, I replied. He smirked at me. It was obvious that I just wanted to talk to Kevin alone. We went downstairs. What the hell are we doing? I asked him. Ah, relax. He soothed me as we walked around the pool. We're good kids. Let's have some fun for once. We don't want to look like babies in front of the rest of them, right? We sat down on the pool chairs while I weighed that remark. We were several years younger than them. We were babies. Okay, but let's not get bombed out of our minds. I don't know how these friends of ours get when they're drunk, and I don't want to be forced into anything. I'll watch out for you. I don't think they'd force you to do anything, though. We went back to our room. Kevin, David, and I sat on one of the beds watching TV as we listened to Rick and Carol moaning and carrying on in the shower as they had sex or pretended to have sex. The 3 of us were eating potato chips and trying not to be embarrassed. They finally came out of the bathroom, but at least they had clothes on. They lay on the bed intending to nap, so the rest of us decided to do the same. Kevin was in the middle, so I didn't have the chance of David messing with me. We woke up and did some more sightseeing and eating. Much later that night, we went to a nightclub that had live music. I didn't expect the club to let me in, but they did. All of them started drinking except for me, and so they were nagging me about it. Carol was drunk, and the rest of them not far behind. Even Kevin was looking half drunk, and he had said he'd be my protector. I had thought it might go down like this. Daddy had told me the stories of how shit happened. Bob had told me worse stories. Then the crowd wasn't liking the band that was playing. Carol got loud, and then she was announcing that we could do a better job than the band that was playing. I knew we could if the rest of them weren't too drunk. She was loud and obnoxious and kept on aggravating everybody with how good we were, and that I could play guitar like Jimi Hendrix. Someone finally yelled for us to put our money where our mouths were. Well, shit, I hardly had but $30 on me, and the rest of them didn't have much more. I hoped that we didn't get the shit beaten out of us. I could take on a few people, but I sure couldn't take on the entire club. The band on stage wanted to watch us fail, so they reluctantly lent us their instruments. Rick wanted to play Like a Stone by Audioslave since it had been popular not that long ago. We didn't do too bad on that song. He was drunker than he should have been, but he handled the vocals and the bass. I handled lead guitar while Kevin played the drums. Carol was barely acceptable on keyboard. David's guitar playing was mostly acceptable. The crowd was lukewarm on that song, but seemed to want more, so I suggested to Rick that we perform Freebird, because I wasn't drunk and I could play the guitar part. David could play it enough to get by, but Kevin had never played the solo well at all. Rick shrugged his shoulders and we launched into Freebird. The crowd started clapping as Carol started the song on the keyboard. When I played piano, it was my favorite song to play. Halfway through the song, Rick was too drunk to sing, so I took over and the rest of them chimed in too. About that time, he sat on the floor. I was surprised that Carol hadn't beaten him there. I smirked and rocked that guitar solo while the crowd gathered closer and rocked with me. They liked the guitar solo and were suddenly jumping up and down like groupies. I smiled at them because they were blown away. Yeah, I was badass with that guitar, even though it wasn't my favorite white Gibson. I caught a glance at the guy who owned the guitar, and his mouth was on the floor as the guitar solo reached intensity. Oh yeah, I was getting a glimpse of what it would be like when we had made it big. The crowd clapped long and hard with a lot of whistling thrown in as the song finished. I could hardly hear the owner of the guitar over the crowd when he said to me, "You're a fucking guitar goddess. Where the hell did you learn how to play like that?" "Whitmire, South Carolina. That's where Jimi Hendrix is from," I replied back, all smiles. I had no idea where he was from. We were unkindly told to exit the establishment at that point because we'd drawn attention to ourselves and how young we were, especially me because I was a female. David and Kevin weren't too buzzed, so we helped Carol and Rick stagger out to the SUV. Rick was sick in the parking lot, and then Carol immediately followed. We all sat in the parking lot until they felt a bit better. We figured we were pretty close to getting arrested when both of them peed in the parking lot too. We got them in the SUV afterward, with Carol hanging her head out one window and Rick out the other. I drove us back to the hotel with David navigating. At the time, I didn't realize this was going to be our future. They slept it off when we got back to the hotel. It had hardly taken 2 hours for them to get wasted and us to get thrown out of the club. It was a little after 11 p.m., so I called my dad. He had wanted to check up on me before I went to sleep. Now he was evaluating whether I was drunk or high. "No, Dad, I'm not either. I didn't drink and I didn't smoke pot or anything else, but we did get to perform 2 songs at a club. I got to play guitar," I told him. "It was the coolest thing. People liked me playing the guitar. I don't get to do that when we play in Greenville." He was happy to hear that. What I didn't expect was him to say afterwards, "Let me talk to Rick." I glanced over at Rick, who was passed out. You can't. Him and Carol are a little drunk and they're passed out." I listened to my dad freak out at me for about 10 minutes. Then he remembered that I wasn't drunk. "So you're taking care of them?" he asked. "Yeah, pretty much. Somebody's got to do it," I replied, thinking that I was home free now. "Well, let me talk to Kevin." Oh my God. I looked over at Kevin and knew that he wasn't going to be able to pull off not being drunk as he talked to my father. Yeah, Dad, it's probably best that you don't," I replied hesitantly. Man, I was bad at lying on the fly. "Jesus H. Christ, is he drunk too?" I cringed. Now I'd be known as a tattletale because I'd already fucked up my lying. "They've all been drinking, Dad. I drove us back to the hotel so we'd be safe. Kids drink. I mean, you have to know that. Surely you used to drink, right?" So now I was listening to my dad on a tirade of Kevin being drunk and the rest of them being irresponsible and that he should never let me come with them. He said I was way too young to have to deal with all of it, and they dragged me into doing it too. I looked up as David was helping Rick to the bathroom. "I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't know it would be like this. I know better, but I suppose they don't. I didn't mean to ruin your night." It wasn't a great night. Carol and Rick were both sick another time, but at least they made it to the bathroom. Just barely, but they made it. And both of them needed someone to help them get there because they couldn't stand up by themselves. At one point, both of them were camped out in the bathroom moaning. David and Kevin didn't get sick, but were a little tipsy. I helped Kevin to the bathroom one time. I finally got some sleep. Then it was time to check out of the hotel. I called my dad and told him not to worry because we were on our way home and I was driving. So as Rick and Carol mostly slept during the ride home, I drove with David and Kevin navigating. "I can't believe we're going back to Whitmire. I can't wait to blow that town," David remarked out of the blue. "Are you thinking of going to college?" I asked. He scoffed at me. "No, I'm thinking that we should all move somewhere and get serious about our music," he said as if I should have known better, and I guess I should have. He had said more than once that school was a waste of his time. "Kevin and I are only 16. We have 2 more years of school," I reminded him. "And where are we going to move to?" "We'll just leave you babies in Whitmire." He was really being an ass at that point. I'd like to point out that this baby is driving your ass home," I scoffed back at him. "Yeah, right, like you could get us back home without me telling you which roads to take." Okay, stop it, you two. I already have a fucking headache, Kevin told us in irritation. He was sitting in the middle of the back seat between Rick and Carol. I'm just saying that I need to move elsewhere, David replied. I'm tired of my family being on my case. I have a job and I play gigs with y'all for extra cash, but they're always on my case. If I could trade to be my brother Alan, they'd love me to death. God, he can't do anything wrong. I fucking hate him. I wish I could get away from my family too, Kevin replied unhappily. Angel's dad would let me live with them, but there's no way my parents would let me do it. She has such a good daddy. Maybe I should move in with you and your daddy, David said absent-mindedly. I could ask him, I said as I stopped at a traffic light. I had to admit that I didn't have a clue where we were at. I only knew that we were in South Carolina. Oh hell, I'm not really serious. You're such a kid. So I was just going to stay out of that conversation. I popped my CD with Still the Same on it into the CD player to help me deal with the situation. I'm going to throw away that fucking CD. I'm tired of hearing that song, David snapped as the song ended and I pushed the repeat button. Hell, I needed that song. Bob Seger always helped my nerves. I'm driving. I get to hear it one more fucking time, I snapped back. Shut up, assholes, Carol grinned from behind us. Jesus, David exclaimed, but we listened to Still the Same one more time. It's a shame that that song was only 3 minutes and 28 seconds long. It was really a waste because the rest of them kept growling at me to shut the damn thing off. Daddy was waiting when I got home. I had the daddy of all lectures then, and he grounded me for a week, which wasn't fair. He told me that I was lucky that he wasn't making me quit the band. Yeah, that would have been bad. Luckily, we didn't have a gig touring that time. Sometime afterwards, without telling me, he also talked to each of the band members and especially lit into Rick and Carol and David. He wasn't so hard on Kevin. I knew Kevin wanted to rat on me being drunk the day that he, David, and I had gone to swim in the creek. I was so glad he kept his mouth shut. But I was just mortified that my dad had chewed them out because now the band was angry at me. Hey, at least he didn't tell your parents, right? Was all I could say. I was really thankful for that. Cole was angry when I told him about the trip to Charleston. He was angry that I'd shared a bed with David and Kevin. He mostly tolerated my friendship with the two of them until that point. Kevin had told Wendy the truth, too, because if he hadn't, then Carol would have spouted it off one day. I don't want you hanging around Kevin anymore, Cole told me. He's my friend. I thought he was your friend, too. And he's in the band. How can I not hang out with him? I asked back. I had almost spouted off that he was my best friend, but Cole wouldn't have dealt with that at all, so we argued. Kevin recited the same story to me. Wendy didn't want him to hang out with me anymore. Daddy, I said later as my dad and I were greasing up the bush hog, does Cole have the right to be mad because I spend time with Kevin and David? He chuckled. Little bear, you're silly. You know that? All your friends are guys. Why wouldn't you think Cole wouldn't have a problem with that? Wouldn't you be angry if Cole hung around with other girls all the time? I squinted my eyes thinking about it. Depends what he's doing with them. And what are you doing with David and Kevin? My dad asked back. I looked at him. I could hold an emotionless face with the best of them. We locked eyes for a few seconds and then Daddy said, yeah, that's what I thought. He turned his attention back to the bush hog. He was partly right. Kevin and I had slept together several times. I hadn't done anything with David at all since the time at the creek at summer before. I don't think Daddy's going to appreciate this, I told Carol as I sat on a stool in her kitchen. The band was supposed to meet at her house to practice, but Kevin and David were AWOL. Connie, Carol's sister, was dyeing part of her hair purple, so Carol thought it would be cool if all us girls did it. Aw, don't be a spoiled sport. In time it will grow out or you can dye it back to black. Yeah, what she said, Connie replied as she mixed the dye. I looked at the box and decided purple wasn't such a bad color to add to my dark hair, which wasn't black, as Carol had indicated. What are you doing? Rick asked as he came into the kitchen and saw us with the hair dye. Connie had just finished putting dye in one streak down my hair and on the last 4 inches of it or so. Girl stuff, Carol replied. Her dad is going to kill us, he informed her. I really don't like getting my ass chewed out. I didn't do it. Connie did, she told him. Yeah, blame it on me, Connie giggled. I had to admit that I liked Connie so much more than Carol. Connie was like the flower girl of the 60s, and she always paid me positive attention. I would have let her put my hair in pigtails if she wanted to. You both should be in the garage practicing with us, he announced. If anyone needs practicing, it's Kevin, Carol told him, and she was right. He was an okay drummer, but he was getting better. All the guys thought our purple hair looked cool. David took pictures of us. My dad, being an old guy, had to be the odd man out. What did you do? He demanded. It's just a little hair color, I told him. And you decided to do this yourself. No, Connie and Carol were dyeing their hair, and so the three of us did it to match each other. Daddy went on a roll of all the things that my older friends would do that I would also do. He was still messed up about it for 4 days later, and I was beyond tired of him stereotyping me with kids that would do drugs and die of a heroin overdose, so Connie dyed the purple out of my hair. His overprotectiveness of me was getting on my nerves. However, now my hair was really black, dark as a moonless night black. I thought it was funny. Daddy thought it less funny. David took pictures.